steep climb. So the title of this video is not clickbait at all. This ride was easily the hardest ride I've ever done in my entire life. Pretty much by a long shot. So anyways, let me start at the beginning. I signed up for the Ground Hundo almost kind of last minute. They had reopened registration, and I saw that I really didn't have anything going on that weekend, and it's only about a 3-hour drive from Ohio. I had to work on Friday, 7 to a little after 2, so I already had my car loaded. Hopped in my car and took off and drove directly to Johnstown, PA after my photo shoot. The Ground Hundo is hosted by Hope Cyclery. There was a number of rides. I think there was a short 30, there was a 50, which was supposed to be a tough one also. The 69-ish, which is what I did, which turned out to be I think 72 miles. And then there was the Hundo, the 100, which basically did the entire 70-mile course. And then once you got back into town, you went out for another 30 miles and 3,000 feet of climbing. The fact that people got back into town and still decided to do that just shows what badasses those people are. Anyways, when we got into town, I went directly to the bike shop. Camping wasn't open yet. So at Hope Cyclery, Crust Bikes was hosting a party from 5 to 8. So they had some beer and people were just kind of hanging out, signing in, not registering. And, just a good time. Started to meet some people. My buddy Dylan from Columbus drove up. He actually came up with his buddy Ed, who I got to know and was a cool guy. Yeah, and just started to have some conversations and hang out and drink some drinks and have a good time. Then we drove over to, I think it's called People's Gas Park or something like that, but it's right in downtown, kind of where it's between the river and some railroad tracks. I guess it's an outdoor concert venue during the summer. But yeah, it's all fenced in, so it was kind of nice. We were able to pull our cars right in, set up our camping gear, and then, it was kind of protected from just anyone walking in. You had to be someone who was registered for the event. So the first night, basically after that happy hour and getting everything set up, was just hanging out. There was a big communal fire pit, so it was basically hanging out there and just meeting people. It was awesome. I started, had a bunch of great bicycle and just traveling and camping conversations in general, and the introduction stuff of where are you from. Met a lot of people that I'll actually be seeing next week at Nutmeg as well. So yeah, really, really cool. It was really a good evening. Woke up in the morning. The ride started at 8 o'clock, I believe, but got up a little on the early side. It was about only like a 5-10 minute ride to the bike shop where the ride started, but they were going to have coffee and stuff like that at the shop, go over your bike last one time, something you always want to do. And and I was eating some breakfast. I brought some bananas and bars and stuff like that, filling up the water bottles. Rolled out at 8. It was pretty chilly. I actually left my down jacket on. Not something I would normally do, probably at the temperature it was, maybe 40 degrees, but it's still early fall and I'm just not used to those temperatures. So I knew it meant it was something I was going to haul most of the day but not wear, but I had my Zeitgeist bag on the bike, so whatever. To me, it was just worth it. I just not ready for the weather yet. So yeah, started out on the road and kind of hung with the group and then, hit the gravel. After the first decent gravel climb, I stopped at the top to get rid of my jacket, and I was never around too many people again after that. I mean, I wasn't completely solo, but definitely the faster guys were off the front, and I was towards the back at that point, which is fine. Yeah, the ride, after the first couple climbs, there was a really gnarly descent that was really chunky. People were calling it the snowmobile trail. I assume for the obvious reason. But yeah, rutted, rocky, some trees you needed to kind of bunny hop or pull over or go around the side of the trail. I met one guy who picked up a stick. I didn't see it happen. Met him later in the ride and went over the bars. I guess 2 people went over the bars from the fire chats later in this section, but it was something you needed to be careful about. It's funny, I've seen some people's Instagram stories and stuff since that were just kind of sending it down this thing, which to me is intense. My buddy Dylan too, when I saw him after the ride, of course I had to be did you send it down that descent? And he was like, yep. Just it's bonkers to me, but I kept it on the bike except for one big down tree, and that was at the point where I finally caught someone and passed him, but he must have been on 35s or 38s. He had a bike with fenders and fairly narrow tires, and we leapfrogged each other a couple times during the day. He would descend and climb a little faster than me, unless it was those super gnarly ones like that, which is where I would catch him a bit. This is where I'm going to talk about the upgrades to my Raleigh in another video, but I had put new brakes on, and I also put these new Flexier titanium bars on, and boy, did those both come in real handy for this ride. Anyways, the ride was really beautiful. I don't know exactly the breakdown of the mix of gravel and road, but it was really good. There was plenty of gravel, plenty of dirt, really pretty. And even the roads we were on, like I never, there's a couple, on any long ride like this where you have to cross over some decent roads, or you're on them for 50 or 100 yards, decent, busy kind of roads. But all the ones we were on had a shoulder and you weren't on them very long. I was really happy with the mix, and actually this ride was so tough that the pavement was like a nice reprieve at times, reprieve, whatever, where a good paved descent wasn't so bad, wasn't looking so bad, 30, 40, 50 miles in. So the ride went well. There were 2 aid stations. First one I got to, I wasn't totally gassed yet. There were people I had met there the night before, and everyone around was friendly and chatting, and I kind of took off with some people, but I couldn't hang with them already on the first few climbs. Again, this is where I ran into a buddy I met who knew the channel, Emmett. His friend was single speeding this thing. That dude is a savage. I can't even imagine riding this with one gear. I had made, this was Yonda, the bike mechanics at my shop, idea to put a road link from Wolftooth onto my Raleigh and drop my 105 derailleur so it could reach a 42 tooth cog in the back. I was running a 34 on this bike. That's what I've always run. If I was running that 34, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, I might have at some point made the decision to bail towards the 50. If I had tried to stick it out to the 70, I just would have taken a couple extra hours because I would have been walking so much. That 42 was the other upgrade to my Raleigh that I just did the week before the ride. That was another godsend. I mean, because not only was it making it so I could stay on my bike on some of these super gnarly climbs, but towards the end, I was just crawling. Like my legs were so tired that I was just taking almost any time the road turned up and putting it into the easiest gear and just, pedal after pedal. This was a tough ride. This was a really tough ride. The thing is, like, I'm used to some gnarly gravel climbs, but they're usually punchy and short. Even the longer ones I've done would be in like, a little down farther south in Ohio from here, like the Black Fork gravel grinder, and there's some really tough climbs in that, but they end. There was one in this that I think was almost a mile, all in double digits and all on loose gravel. I lost traction twice and had to put a foot down, which always kind of sucks, but I think a lot of people were probably putting a foot down on this on this climb, and this climb was nuts. The good thing is the second aid station was pretty close, not far after the top of this one. I got up to that aid station, I rolled up on my bike, and I just like comically fell off to the side. I feel bad for the guy working the aid station. I think he thought I was serious for a second. He was like, "Are you okay?" But yeah, just going for that comedic effect. But I sat there and had a beer and laid on my back for a little bit and just tried to recover, but never really did. There might have been times like in the flat, like where I was maybe putting in a little effort, but after that, like everything just kind of hurt. And then a couple of the people I was talking about, like the guy riding the single speed, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name right now. I met so many people this weekend, and his buddy Emmett were there, and they were kind of talking about what was coming up next. And they were like, yeah, there's going to be like a little gravel climb out of here, and then like maybe one more medium road hill. And I think we were at like the higher end of 40 miles at this point. And someone laughed, and someone was like, nah, and someone was like, yeah, that's it. So I'd kind of in my mind, I'm like, just for my own getting through this whole ride's sake, told myself like, yeah, that's going to be it. Okay, good. Well, there was that gravel climb. There was another gravel climb. There was a couple rollers, a couple decent road hills that were really taking it out of me. And then I can't remember what mile it was without looking at my Strava, but maybe into the 60 mile-ish, there was a final road climb that was just killer, and you could just see how steep it was and that it was going to kick up even higher. I'm just, again, turning over the pedals. I started to do the zigzag thing back and forth across the road to try and make it a little easier. I literally got to the point where it kicked up so steep where I was just like, I lost the will. I had to jump off and just walk 10 feet and take a couple deep breaths before I could jump back on my bike and finish the climb. I'm someone who, like, I don't know if I've ever put my foot down on a road climb before, and I was just done. You know, it's a climb I could go out and ride, you know, right? Say I'd ridden 10 miles and then hit that. I could definitely ride up this thing. But at that point in the ride, I couldn't. So anyways, I know none of this is intended to even sound negative. It was just a tough ride. It was absolutely stunningly beautiful. Like some of these gravel descents and the leaves in full color, or even some of the, when you're in the pavement at the top of some of these mountains, it was just absolutely stunning and worthwhile. And even the chance to talk to people, commiserate, or make some jokes like as you passed or talked was also pretty awesome. Everyone around seemed like really cool people, everyone who showed up. But yeah, towards the end, we turned onto a bike path, and I was like, thank God, kind of zoomed out on my Wahoo and saw the river that kind of looked like it led back into town. And I just was like, I hope to God this bike path just takes us all the way back to the finish. I do not have the will to climb on my bike again. So it did. It was great. It finished back at the campground. Got back there, talked to Dylan a little bit, talked to a couple other people around. Got to ride, Emmett has one of those Riv Atlantises, the really long ones. And I've always wondered how those things rode, and I got to push around on it a little bit. And surprisingly, I was just absolutely amazed at how well it handled. They must have really balanced such a crazy looking bike, you know, by balancing out with it must be like head to angle and like how the rake of the front end. But anyways, that was really cool to get to check that out. Went in my tent to get changed, sat there I think for 10 minutes just staring at the wall of the tent before I got myself up and motivated to get changed. Surprisingly felt fine the rest of the night. I mean, I didn't go ride my bike or walk around that much, but they had since it is a venue, they were able to open the indoor bar, and they had all local craft beers from the brewery in town, which was really awesome. So they would sell them, you know, you didn't have to have them open. So I bought, you know, a 4-pack. And then they had got some food, and then just posted up at the fire all night. I think I finished around 4:30. It was like 7.5 hours of riding time. But yeah, it was just so cool because posting up at the fire, people kind of rotated in and out and just kept meeting people and chatting with people all night. Just really, really good time. There was a negative that there was the busiest train tracks I've ever been near were right by the campsite. I slept in most of it over the night, but, you know, you can't lie and say it wasn't noisy. It was noisy. If you're a light sleeper, it could be a little bit of a problem, I would say. But I think it was worth the trade-off of being able to camp right there in town like that with everybody. It was just a really, really good experience. I got up in the morning. I thought they had the fire going. I know some people were making breakfast, but I was in kind of one of those moods to roll out. I was trying to decide if I wanted to do something else on the way back, but said a couple goodbyes to some friends, and then I started to head out, tried to hit a coffee shop. It was closed, COVID closure. So then I decided to hit a different town on the way out that I hadn't been to, so stopped in Latrobe, and the cafe that I had on my Google Maps was closed. I thought about like stopping somewhere to ride my bikes and realized my legs are not going to have it in them. So instead I just decided to head off on my way home. That way I could get some work done, get home, get all my camp gear, you know, aired out and stuff, because I am going again next weekend. But all in all, it was a great time. I definitely recommend it. I know I'm making this ride sound really tough, but you could also sign up for one of the shorter ones. I think most of the people who watch this channel and most of my friends would love to do this event. It might be really cool if it's always the week before Nutmeg to actually shift our planning and ride this ride and then maybe, you know, work our way out to Nutmeg, however that would look. But yeah, definitely check it out. Johnstown was cool. I really wish I would have explored the town a little more, but on Saturday night, I was so tired and just really enjoying hanging out with everybody. And kind of the same thing on Friday night. You know, I went to a group event to do my best to try and be social, which isn't always a strong suit, and the fact that it was just working out and meeting cool people, you know. And then I was also thinking, this is only 3 hours away. I think I'm definitely going to be back. So that's it for this video. Enjoy the rest of the footage, and yeah, we will see you in Connecticut.